This morning I've been watching Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins. Seeing Alex in that situation really made me think about how I show up when I'm interviewing guests and they are much higher in status than me.
Check out this lovely stream.
Just like this Russian doll effect of literal size and perceived status.
Podcast Mentee Phenomenon. Okay, that's what we're gonna call it.
You're interviewing someone else, there is pressure on you.
This is a reminder to myself to respect the person that I'm interviewing because I'm wanting to learn from them.
This is what makes me happy, work makes me happy. And that is really seductive.
There's a difference between wanting to learn from someone and being intimidated by them.
Here we are again at the world's worst junction. We're going to Grizedale Forest. I like going anywhere to think, but there's something about the forest that, like really just makes my whole nervous system just kind of relax. Like, I feel like walking in nature, journaling on the problems that you're trying to solve is extremely cathartic, and I've never come away from one of my strategic walks or journal walks and regretted it. Always helpful if you are insanely caffeinated. You'd think New Tonic would sponsor me someday. I bought enough of their stuff. Mind you, if they sponsored me, they would lose all the sales, wouldn't they? So, yeah, it's probably not in their best interest. This morning I've been watching the Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins interview, which was very interesting. If you don't know who these people are, Alex Hormozi, billionaire, 36-year-old, super jacked, like giga chad of the kind of new age millennial business content world. And Tony Robbins has been around the block for quite some time. I think he's like 70, but he does these huge summits of like inspiring people to change their lives in business and stuff, and it's all like very emotional. And he doesn't class himself as a motivator, I heard him say, but a lot of people think of him like that. But it's all about this emotional transformation and stuff. It's almost like he's like the OG of the kind of performance mindset, spirituality kind of awakening of context, awakening sort of sphere. And with someone like Alex, who is, if you've seen him on podcasts in the past, like he's the one like leading the charge. He's laying out this is what you need to do to grow in business. Like he's the authority, and you don't question that. But I must admit, I'd heard some of his content, and he's very like, you don't need that much rest. You just need to be absolutely sending it all the time. I'll work harder than anyone else. Fuck happiness. Like this is what makes me happy, work makes me happy. And that's very seductive. And if you are of the ilk of the high performance, hard charging, crushing it in life kind of mode, then you can kind of be like, oh yeah, like fuck happiness. Fuck happiness, I'll just work. Like this guy's doing it, this guy's doing well. Finally, I'm validated in this approach that I've been taking all of my life. But, you do think to yourself, the other side of it is like, but it kind of feels off, do you know what I mean? Like there's something, but there's no one there to challenge this guy, right? So it takes us back to the interviews. They sit down together. Alex has set up the interview because he wants to talk to Tony. And the shift in power dynamics in terms of how Alex Hormozi normally is on a podcast versus him interviewing Tony. And I know from personal experience, when you're interviewing someone else, there is pressure on you. So if you're not used to it, like I don't think Alex has done many interviews when he's the interviewer. So there is that shift there, but it's this mentor-mentee relationship. And what's really beautiful is seeing a very nervous Alex Hormozi. I'll see if I can bring up a screenshot of him. But I saw that look and I'm like, oh, that's been me so many times. And that's when someone is coaching you and you kind of very much on the bottom in terms of that power dynamic. Seeing Alex being in that situation really made me think about how I show up when I'm interviewing a guest and they are much higher in status than me, and it's a palpable feeling. And I suppose what I want from the conversations is for me to be as relaxed as possible. I want to be able to offer something. I want to be able to make them laugh. And sometimes when you're in that rabbit in headlights, mentor-mentee version, you can become just like a little child, like just like a little boy, because they're getting at the heart, and they're almost like coaching you. And so one of the things that I set out in some of my intentions for the year was to, before I go into a podcast, and this is a bit cringe, right? But the inverted commas was to remind myself who the fuck I am before conversations. And that was intended as a way for me to be as confident as possible. So like, what are all these, like listing all the things, like a bit of a mantra, like what is the stack of achievements and things that I've done in my life in which this person would respect me more. And I still want to do that because I do think you get the best out of me when I'm feeling confident, a little bit cheeky, able to crack a joke, able to just give my personality. But there is also something really beautiful in seeing Alex Hormozi be in that situation where he was clearly very nervous, and think, wow, it's also relational, isn't it? It's like next to Tony Robbins, he looks like a little kid. And ironically as well, Tony Robbins actually he's like a giant. He has, is it gigantism? Something like that. He's literally a like massive man next to Alex Hormozi, who like normally when you see him next to someone else, he's the biggest guy in the room. So it's just like this Russian doll effect of literal size and perceived status. Another good example, Chris Williamson, right? Modern Wisdom podcast, super jacked guy. And on most podcasts, you'll see him sat opposite some dusty academic, and he's got these huge forearms. Then I saw Chris Williamson put up a vlog of him training with Chris Bumstead, who is former Mr. Olympia. And you look at them next to each other and he looks so tiny, and it's just so funny. Like, how far do you go up in terms of like status and size hierarchies? At a certain point you will run out of headroom.
So I'm just on the little path here going up to one of these trails at Grizedale, and it is pretty cold. My hands are feeling like I wish I brought some gloves, but here we are. It's interesting noticing the shift in my style in terms of how relaxed I am now versus in the car. And there's people coming here and it makes me nervous. So I decided to put my jacket on, and I did find some gloves in my jacket pocket, which is handy. I felt like I was trying to walk really fast to warm up just a minute ago, which makes me sound a little bit rushed and nervous. But one of the things I was just talking about was being relaxed, being confident, being able to deliver and think like you're just in the most comfortable state of mind so that you can show up as yourself. And I noticed that even, see someone coming here, it makes me feel nervous, even the change from being in the car to, hello, being in the car to then shifting to coming outside is like that little increase in discomfort, which is so easy to resist, once you get into a certain state of, whether it's being in the habit of recording podcast episodes in my office, or after a couple of days of recording in the car, starting to get more comfortable doing that. It's a reminder that if we're wanting to continually grow in life, then no pun intended, look at all these trees growing around us. Hopefully the camera doesn't drop out of the holder. That must be a pretty cool view. But yeah, if we're not seeking that discomfort, then how are we going to grow? It's interesting because the first couple that I saw coming towards me, I turned the camera off and put it by my side, just because I'm not used to it. And then the second couple there, I was like, I'll just keep it on. It's fine, isn't it? 9 years ago, I traveled around the world for 11 months, and I basically filmed myself every day doing this. It was like similar to this, but it was just me like holding my phone out, and I never published anything, but it was just like a diary. So that was my way of diarizing my experiences, and I just got used to talking on the camera like this. I think we're going up this little path here. So Alex Hormozi, Tony Robbins, power dynamics, and how timid should one be in that sort of coach, mentor, mentee dynamic, where you want to be able to at least come across like yourself, but then show that person the respect that they've earned. I talk about reminding myself who the fuck Jason is, and it's like, but also who the fuck that person is. Like, they've built that respect, and I suppose it's like this checks and balance system of status hierarchy that we all kind of subconsciously believe in. I guess that's what respect is. You can tell I was down by the flu for 3 weeks because I wouldn't normally be this out of breath coming up this hill. But I am talking to the camera and I'm starting to get warm now. And then I'm going to have to take a layer off. I once went on a trekking holiday. I think it must have been about 10 years ago. I went to Iceland, and I always remember noticing that our guide, we were going through all these mountains and stuff, and I was like, you always have like the same like layers on, like, like always taking your jacket off and sweating and stuff. And he explained that he adjusts his pacing so he doesn't overheat, etc. So it was really interesting. So rather than, getting to a hill and going up it fast because he can, he would sort of notice his body heating up and just sort of slow it down a little bit. So allow for this like really steady way of pacing your walks, which I thought was always a really cool insight. I've not managed to totally encapsulate that today so far in my numerous outfit changes. I'm trying to think of what this observation actually is in terms of seeing what Alex was going through on that podcast and matching that with my own experience. I think of a name for it, don't we? So it'd be mentee, something mentee. Podcast mentee complex. I heard this recently, actually. A complex is defined by something that's like overly ruminated on. Sound familiar? Like it's kind of gone off the rails. Podcast mentee complex. Podcast mentee effect. Podcast mentee phenomena. Okay, that's what we're going to call it. I suppose thinking about it now, I'm trying to answer for myself how valuable it is for my audience to see Jason in the mentee position. And I suppose when I look at me looking at Alex, I have found that to be valuable. Check out this lovely stream. So really, me seeing Alex in that dynamic has been extremely valuable for me. And I suppose maybe it's because of a element of imposter syndrome where I feel like, well, like who really cares about watching my content or what I do? So I need to be showing up as strong and powerful and knowledgeable and eloquent and fill in the blank rather than showing up as a novice. But paradoxically, to that point, I have also been very comfortable in being authentic and raw and open on many of my episodes. Like, I think about when I went on Jessica De Silva's podcast, which is Let's Talk Attachment, and I talked about my perspective of having a anxious attachment style as a male, and I got a huge response from that. Loads of people following me, messaging me, like saying it was really refreshing. So I suppose this is a reminder to myself around that vulnerability and it being okay in those situations to respect the person that I'm interviewing because I'm wanting to learn from them. But I suppose there's a difference between wanting to learn from someone and being intimidated by them. So I guess that's the balance that I'm looking to strike. And I think about, I interviewed the former, who was the Hyrox world champion at the time, Alexander Ronchevich, and I was nervous beforehand. So I did about 10 minutes of breath work. I did the Wim Hof method, which is basically like essentially hyperventilating and then holding your breath for a long time. You can check out the episode I did with Kieran Avitibly on breathwork if you're interested in that. I'll link it in the description. So I'd done that breath work, but I was able to come into that conversation feeling relaxed, kind of had that cheeky energy that I'm talking about, but also be in that mentee state of I did want to learn from him, but I also felt comfortable. It's not enjoyable being nervous, and I'm sure when Alex was at the start of that conversation with Tony Robbins, he would have been shitting his pants because I could tell by his expression. So that probably wasn't too nice for him, but it was endearing. So it's like there's good and bad to everything, I suppose, and everything is a trade-off. It's like if I'm super confident and don't appear to be nervous, then that will mean that my delivery is better and I'm able to probably connect with the guest on a more level playing field rather than that mentee phenomena as we described. And on the flip side, if I do show up and a little bit nervous, then other people that are in similar situations to me or will be able to then humanize me in that encounter. So I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? Everything has a good and a bad side. I know in Buddhist teachings, they talk about the middle way or the middle path. On the path here, we've got lots of puns out today. Maybe it's divinely inspired, but they talk about the middle road, and that's kind of what it is, isn't it? And the last episode I talked a lot about balance and how balance is not balance. Balance is going back and forth between on and off, left and right, hard and soft, like, and maybe mentor, mentee, confident and nervous, and that's okay. And sometimes you're going to be in the middle, sometimes you're going to be on the either side. But I think the take home for me, as I wrap all this up together, is don't be intimidated by people just because of their qualifications, but respect that and remind yourself of who you are, but also be respectful of who they are, and just be open and honest, and everyone is going to connect with that more. From my experience, in terms of those who watch my videos, they've never complimented me for being confident. You know, I've had compliments for being vulnerable and being honest, but no one's ever gone, oh, I loved how confident you were on that podcast. You know what I mean? Like, and I suppose because that just doesn't get noticed, because if you are confident, people don't pick up on you not being confident, if that makes sense. So what about you? Did you watch the interview with Alex and Tony, and what did you think of their encounter? Well, let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this format, please do let me know. I really do appreciate it. So thanks again for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one.